What's going on, everybody? Welcome to this week's edition of People Over Politics. I have a special guest today. Of course, one of multiple guests, but a brand new guest. He is a friend of mine. He's also elected public servant in Howard County, so my neighboring area. And if you know anything about Laurel, it touches multiple counties. Oh, Shahan, thanks for joining. So, anybody who doesn't know Shahan, Sean, tell us a little bit about you. Say hello to the people.
Well, first off, thank you, Councilman, for your very kind invitation. I certainly appreciate our cross-county partnership and the friendship we've developed, and I was very excited to help get you elected to help in my little way that I could. So we appreciate that partnership. For folks that don't know me, my name is Shahan Rizvi. I am the current chairman of the Howard County Democratic Central Committee. I became chairman in June 2020. I am currently up for re-election to the Howard County Democratic Central Committee. I got elected first in 2018. I am now seeking re-election with a group of 19 others, and we are called Howard County United, running for the Democratic Central Committee as a slate. And so I'm excited a little bit to talk about our candidacy today and our candidate conversations. And outside of that, I've also been a Muslim community leader. Before I got into politics, I started my role as president of the Howard County Muslim Council, trying to create opportunities for the Muslim community to get to know their elected officials and their community at large. The Muslim councils came about shortly after September 11th, when there was a lot of prejudices and racism happening against the Muslim community post 9/11. So those Muslim councils formed to help bridge the gap and let the community know that we're like everybody else. We belong in this community. We're here to contribute to the community. We're your doctors, we're your business owners, we're your engineers, your lawyers, and we're all part of that fabric. That work slowly got me into the Democratic Party, and I'm happy to be the current chair of the Central Committee now in Howard County, and I'm looking forward to continuing to build on the good work that we've done here at the Central Committee.
Hey, Shahan, that was a very succinct, but you dropped a lot. So a few things. I'll start with the, one of the last things was, a Muslim leader, right? So you're a Muslim leader first, a Muslim community leader, and one of the things you did was raise awareness in your area around the needs of the Muslim community and the fact that it is a very diverse community, right? Like Howard County has become a melting pot, right? Like it's very diverse. The demographics, racially, even the economic the economic differences, right? Like you have a varying of median income salaries depending on the areas. So Howard County is a very interesting place in the first place. But one of the things, I went to my first iftar this year. I got
Awesome.
invited, and well, actually, I ended up going to like three. This so I got invited to a lot, but yeah, there was great events in each area. The community came out, and from one thing that I saw is it was really a time to connect key stakeholders and like political leaders and public servants, to the Muslim community. And it was a very interesting experience because the thought is like you then get to understand their culture better. You participate in some of their cultural rituals. So that was very touching. And the thought is like we should do more of that. But I'll be honest with you. I went to some places and it looked like just heavy campaigning, right? And I understand it's campaign season, but I went to one in Montgomery County, and boy, I thought Prince George's had it bad, but the one in Montgomery County, I was in the audience, and half the hand raised, to speak when they asked were people running for office, someone representing a certain office, and I was like, sheesh, I had no clue. Looked around, I was like, but with that being said, one of the questions I wanted to ask you, I got a little topic. I got excited there. I got a little topic. One of the questions I wanted to ask you was, Howard County, what do you think the percentage of Muslim in, I guess is it Muslim and Sikh populations? Or would they be under
So
the
they are
same umbrella?
separately, yeah, no problem, Councilman. They are separately categorized. We do have Sikhism as its own religion, in addition to Hinduism, and then Muslims are sort of their own religious group as well. Um, so, the population is sort of hard to really measure to capture folks' religion, so to speak. I mean, we only have really off the census data from 2020 really to collect, but I can give you a statewide figure. We've heard numbers as close to 300,000 Muslims statewide. I believe your county, Prince George's and Montgomery, have probably the lion's share of the Muslim population, and there is a very strong and vibrant group of Muslim community activists in Montgomery County. So it is a population that's growing. And, to your point that you were sharing, thank you for first going to these iftars. I think that's very important to see elected representatives like yourself participating and meeting different faith-based communities. I think the backbone of the Democratic Party, when it started, first off, they are African-American women, the lifeblood and backbone of the Democratic Party. But another large part of that group that in its early inception was faith-based communities, and we've done a lot of great work with our Jewish communities and our Christian communities. And the Muslim community has been an opportunity these last decade or so that we've needed to galvanize and get involved, for a long time. Interestingly enough, I would probably tell you, probably a lot of Muslims used to be Republican post 9/11. The majority of things. After September 11th, we saw a drastic shift in a lot of Muslims coming to the Democratic Party, now possibly the majority. But interestingly enough, it's still a very non-monolithic group. It is very diverse. And some of what we saw in these results were in the 2020 elections for the presidential. Despite all the hatred and vitriol the former president had done from the White House, we still saw in some of our records that upwards of close to 30% of Muslims still voted for Trump. And to me, that's just mind-boggling, but it is not a monolithic group. It's a very large group, but it is a group that more of our elected leadership needs to pay attention to. And just to give you a quick little piece of how my involvement kind of jumped from Muslim community activism to the Democratic Party, it was really because of Democrats. Democrats made that possible for me. I was president of the Muslim Council, and one thing what we did was we had a bipartisan umbrella. So we invited all of our elected officials in Howard County to participate in those events. We did annual food drives, we did blood health drives, we did interfaith dialogue dinners. And one thing I kept noticing at these events was that mainly Democrats were the only ones showing up. You might have had one or two Republicans come, but outside of that, it was majority Democrats that were coming, including a good friend of mine, our current county executive, Dr. Calvin Ball. He was on the forefront of that. Delegate Courtney Watson as well, and so many other leaders from the Democratic Party who became my first initial exposure to Democrats locally, our local party. And I said, wow, I love what they're doing. I love that they're here participating in our community's work. I want to be a part of that. So I started asking the current chair at that time, Abby Hendricks. I was interested in becoming Central Committee. I wanted to be a part of that. How can I get involved? She gave me some good sound advice. I applied for a vacancy my first time. I did not get it. The second time I applied, I did get it. And then I ran to a 4-year term in 2018, which I was then elected to the Central Committee. And that term is now getting ready to end, which is why I'm up for re-election. And July 19, I hope everyone out there in Howard County will vote for Shahan. Shahan Rizvi will be appearing on the ballot on Howard County Democratic Central Committee, along with my team, Howard County United, 19 others, which we'll be sharing some more information about that a little later. But just really excited about this work. It is a pivotal time for Democrats to energize and be ready to take on what's ahead. We do have a Democrat in the White House, and history has shown us it's going to be a difficult midterm, no matter what. And
That's true. That's the truth.
Yep. And we need Democrats on the forefront. We cannot sit back. What I'm seeing and I'm observing here, even in our county and other places, is there's a lot of still circular infighting that's happening among Democrats. And some of it's expected because of primary things. But I just hope once we're past those points of the primary, we all need to come together in the general. If we want to take back the governor's mansion, if we want to take back, all sorts of elected offices across the state. I mean, this is the time. We've already seen what Hogan judges can do, when Republicans are in office.
Yeah,
We've already
I
saw
agree.
the maps. That was a big, quite chaos surrounding around that until that settled. And, we needed Democrats there. And so I feel it's incumbent upon me to, one, get reelected so I can serve and help the Democratic Party be in the best position to win back, seats up and down the ballot.
Yes, Shahan, that was a great pep talk, and I felt like you definitely were leading the pep rally. I got to get you to lead the next phone bank.
Absolutely.
The powerful. So few things. Of course, you hit on a lot of great things. Dems, we do have a lot of battles that we are going to face in the midterms. You mentioned even, at the presidential level, there's definitely congressional level, which we didn't discuss. There is like I think I saw like 40, people, I think it was like 40, around 40, I believe, that weren't going to run for reelection, for whatever reason. And so like a lot of those are going to be open seats. And one thing is like, the Republicans, they've been gaining, power in different ways, right? Even though, we've taken power and, it's been a back and forth battle, they've been gaining power in different ways, right? So like, targeting these midterm elections where a lot of people are vulnerable, a lot of people are, not running. Of course, we have the majority, but the question always is how long, will the majority last? Especially at the congressional level, and then moving to the state level, you have, of course, a lot of challenges, right? The thought is like even at the governorship, right? Just starting at the top of the ticket, you have a crowded field, a lot of people vying. You have a lot of Republicans, and the thought is like, yes, everyone is free to push their message and present themselves to the community, and I do believe everyone has their chance. I don't believe that we should play dirty. I don't believe that, there should be backhand politics, right? I believe that like you should run a clean race and at whatever level. I think that you need to run a clean race in the sense of don't focus on what your opponent is doing. Focus on what you're doing. Focus on, your strengths, and how you can support the community. Because the thought is, it's like sometimes you see like just even the Dems, they get so caught up and focused in what everybody else is doing or somebody else's past that they're not presenting their argument or their message or gets clouded. So the thought is after a candidate is selected in the primary, there will need to be some type of unity, and unity in which we haven't had in the past elections. Because if you think about it, how many times has a Democrat won the governorship in the last 20 years?
Right.
Right. And so,
no, great
yeah,
points, Councilman. One thing I can definitely comment, I do give a lot of credit to our current Maryland Democratic Party Chairwoman, Yvette Lewis. She's definitely had conversations with all of our gubernatorial campaigns to make certain that whoever emerges as the Democratic nominee for the governorship, they are going to support the Democratic nominee in the general. And I think that's one thing we've seen from state party leadership they've committed to. I'm certainly committed to do that on our county level as well. And all politics is local. These things do have to be.
All politics is local. All roads lead home.
Absolutely, and they need to be affirmed at these local levels, especially these sort of commitments. So I absolutely hear you. 2018, we did see a lot of what you're talking about, not really supporting the Democratic nominee at that time.
Well, not just 2018, Shahan. In the last 20 years, how many of the governors have been Democrats in the state of Maryland?
Sure.
Right.
Absolutely. No, it's been a challenge for us. And I think that support, that unity aspect coming after the primary is going to be very important. We're going to need to get ahead of that. That's going to be very important. Totally agree with you. And I think I've got some ideas of what we can start doing to help with those efforts. One, getting involved in local campaigns now, I think is very important. So everyone gets the understanding of what it takes to run, to get in the community, to knock on doors, to hear what folks have to say on doors, to hear what folks have to say when you phone bank. What is your community talking about? One thing I've learned, especially in Howard County, education is still very important. One of the hottest issues for us here locally. And so a lot of what we're going to see from different campaigns is hopefully going to be focused on continuing to build on the good education that Howard County has presented, especially quality of life. What I understand, at least in Columbia and other surrounding areas, median income here is about 120,000 now. It's pretty high, and that has its own onset of challenges, especially with affordable housing, getting good thoughts on what that's going to take as we grow in our community. Howard County is one of the fastest growing populations in the state of Maryland, and there is going to be a need to help provide for that population coming in, how to get adequate services funded and taking care of that community.
Shahan, of course, it's been great to have you. And you as a Democratic leader, and I think you have addressed, how there's many different factions, right? So just as, there's not a monolith of, Black people, right? There's many different, Black people, right? Like many different colors, many different shapes, many different beliefs, yada, yada. And the same thing with Democrats. There's many different types of Democrats. And I think that like one thing we could realize is like Maryland, is what we call a Democratic stronghold, but I would argue that, it's purple sometimes, especially looking at the governorship. But I would argue that sometimes the establishment, being like a Democratic Party and, like some power and stakeholders don't give real outreach or leadership roles to like liberal Democrats, not progressive, but liberal Democrats. Like I feel as though like in some instances, not even some, I feel like a lot of instances, of course, at the state level, at the local level, you could see examples of this, but like, what is your thought and what is your vision on, being inclusive and, incorporating everybody, as the future of the Democratic Party in Maryland? What are your thoughts?
Absolutely, sir. One thing I can definitely tell you is we need to go into these communities. I think it's a lot of lip service given to just pick, I hate to say it, token folks from each demographic and trying to say you have a sort of connection. But really, what I mean is really supporting those communities and going into them. I'll give you a perfect example. My slate that I'm running for Democratic Central Committee, Howard County United, we started by hitting the faith-based community. So what we did one Sunday, we went to Celebration Church. We attended a Sunday service, me as a Muslim included, attending that Sunday service, which I really got a lot out of. It was an amazing experience with the community there. And we went in there to show them that the Democratic Party is here. We are running for Central Committee, and we are committed to getting this church group also involved in the process. How can we be public servants and leaders to you? And how can we build bridge the gap in bringing them closer? I would like to know who are emerging leaders coming out of those Black churches that can be ready to into leadership roles in the Democratic Party. Similarly, I've also encouraged the Muslim community, and it has done, not even on my own accord, elected officials here already done that they've been proactive about it and engaging, galvanizing the Muslim community, preparing them for different boards and commissions across the county as well. I think our current county executive has done a great job of that too, helping different faith-based communities and different demographics be representative on boards and commissions. So it looks like it. Howard County was very successful in being inclusive. In our last election, we elected our first African-American county executive, our first African-American state's attorney, African-American sheriff. I mean, these were things that we committed to doing, purposeful, and that only happened when we took community leaders like my slate currently, leaders from different aspects of community. We have people on my slate from environmentalists to social justice advocacy, to education, to teachers. We have teachers on our Central Committee. We've got lawyers. We've got a broad stroke demographic from different community groups that have come together to show and build a more inclusive Democratic Party. And if we can take that model that we're doing here in Howard County and start pushing that out across the state, where we say, hey, as a party, we're not just going to go to the churches. We're going to the synagogues. We're going to the mosques. We're going to the temples. Outside of faith-based community, we're going to make sure we are present in event, things that are happening on environmental initiatives, helping with all different aspects of our services and getting involved in the local process. You've got to be deliberate about taking folks from these communities and purposely bringing them into the fold. That's how we're going to build a more inclusive Democratic Party.
Hey, I love it. So 2 things. One, I've talked to many of my friends in the Democratic Party, me as being a party leader, especially in Prince George's, and, connections and doing work across the state, of course, to help get them selected, especially, young ones that have promise and young ones that are pushing the community. One of the things that I brought up to, I believe it was, Delegate Ruth, her and I, friends, but we were talking and I said, hey, quick question. She said, yeah, what's up? I said, why doesn't the Maryland Democratic Party have a platform? And, she gave me some long roundabout answer, right? Which I had heard before. And, one of the things that she said was like, we take direction from the national agenda, the national platform and the convention. And I'm like, okay, well, one, there's other states that have, a platform that, we could look to. And because a lot of people, one, ask, what are the values of Democrats? Like, what do we stand for? This, that, and the third. So I think that, like, having that platform, could help clarify some of that pretty much up front. And, from one, I don't think that there's any real desire nor will to create a platform, even though, it's mentioned that, hey, there might be something we're working on. I know they've created the leadership councils. They have the Progressive DLC Leadership Council and, the African Leadership Council. They have those things, but those groups I think are just ancillary groups that don't really produce results necessarily. I think they're more just kind of like, groups in which they hope to have power, but the party will never really let them have power.
Huh.
So what are your thoughts as far as the platform and why we don't have a state platform?
Well, I think one, there is, I believe, some buckets of different causes and issues that is under the Maryland Democratic Party's platform. I don't know if they call it a platform exactly, but there is some points out there that specifically targets the entire state of Maryland. I do believe that does exist, Councilman, and some of it is rolled in from essentially the DNC, the Democratic National Committee, because that platform gets voted in on, if you recall, from all the folks that were sent to the Democratic National Convention.
Sure, absolutely.
Right? The at-large delegates, essentially, once you've elected them, and some that are appointed by whoever wins, in this case, President Biden, they vote on the national platform, the actual National Democratic platform. That's how that gets authorized, assigned. Sure. And that's what we say, hey, this is what we nationally, as the Democratic Party, are going to pursue. That then gets rolled in down to specific buckets of what's going to be advocacy in parts of the state party. And then even further, central committees. Some of them have them, some of them don't. We have a strategic initiative, which does have some buckets of platform items in our county party as well. That was going to be displayed in our new website coming out very shortly in the next coming days. But, the larger conversation, I think here, Councilman, is this. We elected officials, right? Council folks, to effectuate change, to do things that we need, whether it's in Annapolis, whether it's in county governments, city councils. That's how change gets effectuated in those involvements, right? Now, you've got party apparatus and state party officials that really the mission of at least even our central committee here, is to facilitate the election of Democrats. This group that you elect for central committees and that gets roped into the state party. I mean, these are your folks on the ground. They work in the trenches on behalf of Democrats. Like, they are supposed to do the party building. We should be focused on new voters, bringing new voters into the fold, bringing in, connecting elected officials closer to their constituents, right? Because as a party, I can't, how am I going to change issues on, really specifically climate change? I think we could say we support climate change, right? And we elect elected leadership to take on those issues to effectuate those things, right? And then it should be really the job of these parties to bridge the gap and bring the constituent closer to their representatives and to get them closer together. I think the function of the party should be the glue that holds everyone together so they have a place to come together to see and talk to each other. I think sometimes in constituent services, some of that gets lost. You have direct numbers to council folks and delegates and whatnot, but you may not get all the issues from everybody. And this is another sort of avenue to help bridge that gap. I think communication is one of the things, is the most important key in party building that sometimes we may lose sight of. Yes, we have Facebooks and we have Instagrams and whatnot, but we need to be able to get closer to the everyday voter and the constituent. And if they call, we need to be able to offer resources to help them find who they need. If there's an issue happening in your district in Laurel, and I know somebody that's reached out to the party, hey, do you know how I can get a hold of this person? Who is my elected representative? A lot of people don't know who their elected officials are. It should be our job to let them know who their elected officials are so they can meet them, so they can know who they exactly elected. You do a poll, you might not even know half the people who are running on these down ballot races. People don't even know who the county executive is in Howard County. I did a rough survey just to ask
I think that happens everywhere. I'm not going to just say in Howard. I think that there's sometimes in the counties,
But let me say this too. Like I did just, this is a very non-scientific survey, but I did talk to a friend who was just completely not connected to local politics in Maryland and everything. And I just straight up asked him, who are folks that you've heard for governor? Honestly. And I hope none of the campaigns here get upset with me for saying it, but honestly, they had two names. They had heard of Peter, they heard of Wes. Some folks had heard of Tom, but like that was the case. Like it's just.
And who are you with? You got a guy yet?
I am.
Or a girl?
Well, as the elected chairman of the Central Committee, we are.
I understand.
Keep that neutral. In my personal capacity, I am at some point able to do an endorsement. I'm still thinking thoughts on that if that's something I want to pursue. Right now, I'm running for my own race, and I would like to get elected. And so that is the most important thing for me right now is to get elected.
Well, hey, if you didn't hear it first, I support Shahan, this good brother, and definitely good luck to re-election. So tell people how they can stay connected with you and get reconnected with you.
Absolutely. Please follow our campaign page, The People First Shahan Rizvi, on Facebook. I got a little bit of a mnemonic device to help you spell that name. The People for Shahan. It's S-H-A-N. Go ahead and spell that. That'll make it Shahan. Rizvi, R-I, Z is a zebra, V is in Victor, I. That's the People for Shahan Rizvi. Look us up on Facebook, on Instagram. Look for us at Vote for Shahan. That's vote, the number 4, and then Shahan, S-H-A-H-A-N. Follow me on Instagram. Follow our political journey. We're doing some great work there. And I look forward to continuing to build a more inclusive Democratic Party and hope to earn your vote.
Of course, Shahan, appreciate it. Quick, lightning quick questions. Are you going to support cannabis on the ballot this year?
I believe that cannabis has been, however folks feel about it, whatever it may be, I think we've disproportionately jailed a lot of Black and brown populations as a result of laws surrounding cannabis. I think that's a wrong that we need to right. And we need to make that correct. And yes, I support it. I think it should be on the ballot. I think we're probably going to find majority of Marylanders probably support it. I think Black businesses and minority businesses need to be on the forefront of when this thing gets settled and correct to be able to commercialize and take care of it, because those are the communities affected by it. And I think some of the initial licensing, even for some of the places here in the state, were sort of done behind doors that I wasn't too keen on and happy to see. And I think we need to make that right. And if it does get through and work through, we need to make sure our Black businesses and our businesses of color, women-owned, minority-owned businesses get to reap the majority of the benefits of those things being enacted.
So, Coca Sprite.
Coke Zero.
Oh, oh, different, different. You different. Fun fact about Shahan, and we're getting you out of here.
All right. My fun fact is I am a rapper. My stage name is S Diddy. Very inspired by Bad Boy 97. You can follow my music on streaming platforms. S Diddy. It's always kind of started off really as a outlet release in late of the death of my late father in 2020. I started getting into the studio. Always had a passion from rapping. Like you, Councilman, I grew up in Prince George's County before moving to the great county of Howard County. My formative years were there. So in those schools, I went to High Point High School. I'm an alumni of that. I remember on Fridays, we had folks at the lunch table starting a cipher, getting ready to rhyme. Those initial times really got me inspired by it. My friends started rapping. I wanted to start doing poems myself. I did spoken word initially, and then eventually in 2020, after my father's death, I got in the studio. So that's a fun fact about myself. And I would like to leave the audience with a little democratic rap that just to kind of talk about what's up with 2022.
Wow. Go for it. Democratic rap. Go for it. Bless us.
Let's do it. The fight for democracy never ends. When the opposition is voter suppressing, draconian election laws, filibuster the agenda without cause, abortion rights being put on full pause, Roe v. Wade, they trying to stall, reconciliation exercises full of surprises, and they wonder why the people despise it when all we really want to do is survive the eviction crisis. Climate change is real, but GOP rather drag their heels. How many more natural disasters will humanity have to master till Republicans wake up and realize cutting emissions matter? No appetite for political actors. We must all be factors or face consequences hereafter. 2022, be part of the change. Make sure your friends vote blue. Democrats the only party for reason, while the other side conducts treason each and every season. We're fighting for the salvation of our nation. No more time for demonstrations. We can't keep waiting. Let's vote our governor blue for 2022. Vote Shahan too. You know I'm coming through. Howard County Democrats, stand up and lead the way. The fight for democracy never ends. We need you back to save the day. Vote Shahan Rizvi 2022, July 19. Thank you.
Hey, he did that acapella, y'all. He did that acapella. I appreciate it. Dropping good political content and, keeping us awake. So, man of many talents, man of many passions. As you can see, Shahan, best of luck to you. Of course, 2022 is a madhouse, but, see you on the other side, brother. See you on the other side.
Thank you, Councilman. Appreciate your time.
Absolutely.
Yep.
Welcome back. So we have another guest, as promised, a friend of mine, also a fellow colleague. He does a lot in media, a man of many talents, and I'll bring him on, to share his talents with us.
Hey,
what's going on?
Things are going pretty well. Thanks for having me. I appreciate you.
Of course. So, William, for people who don't know about you, you're the man behind the scenes, right? So you do all the production, but there's so much more than that.
Yeah. Okay. I appreciate that. So first, I would be remiss if I did not say Happy Mother's Day to all of the wonderful mothers out there, including godmothers and the like. So big ups, especially to Mama Hana Blue. Big ups to you. I'm gonna go check her out this evening. She's spitting some fire at the pulpit Sunday morning. And also, big props to my ex-wife, Lynn Halstead, one of the best mothers around, an amazing woman. Only problem she ever had, she was fairly perfect, and the only real issue she ever had is that she had poor taste in men initially, but she seems to have worked that out with the second husband. So she's doing good. But so what do? For Black USA News, I serve as the general manager and kind of had a production in that role because I enjoy that stuff. But I also am the host of the morning show, Monday through Friday, 10 a.m. on all of our streaming social media platforms. Oh, and that's the stuff I do for Black USA News. Yes. So the other stuff, there's a lot of other stuff I do. Okay, so I thought about that. Okay, so I focus on helping people find solutions to things that go wrong. So I'm a lawyer. I have been doing business consulting for like 20 years, and I got to be honest, that's my passion. Helping small businesses and nonprofit organizations, especially micro enterprises. I tell people what I try to do is take the information from Wall Street and make sure that Main Street gets it, but also save a little for the side streets and the alleys, because a lot of times we forget that people live there. You know, there's a lot of stuff to talk about Wall Street and Wall Street money, and then how we're going to open up Main Street, but I grew up on the alley as far as the economy was concerned. Nobody ever talked. Actually, let me take that back. Nobody but Marion Barry, when I was growing up, talked about bringing resources to the alleys, continuing the metaphor. Wow. And so that's kind of what I want to do, because most of the people who really need help, most of the time, they don't even know what they need. They don't even understand the questions to ask. And they think, because most of us have been in business, if we are in business, we've been in business from an employee or vendor kind of relationship, or where we have the one client or the part-time hustle. And so we don't understand that when we get into kind of the regular commercial flow, what that means is that we're out of pocket, because business isn't those things that you deliver. Business is all the contracts, the insurances, all of the stuff that nobody ever sees. Well, if you're lucky, nobody sees it. Because if somebody sees it, that means something went wrong. And you hope that if they see it, it's all in order. But that's the business part that a lot of our small businesses are missing out on. Doing things the hard way. I've made enough mistakes that I can save you a couple.
Well, and I think what is important, and one of the things that, I really value, is that you give guidance, mentorship, right? So like, for one, me as a black man, I appreciated you as an older black man imparting that knowledge and wisdom, on me, and, being critical, right? So, just wanting to see better and wanting to see growth. So, I do applaud that. I want to say that.
Thank you, man. I appreciate that.
Absolutely. But outside of that, you're a man behind the scenes, right? So a lot of people, they don't see the value in the behind the scenes. And as I say to a lot of elected officials, in the General Assembly very well, the superstars are the staff, to be honest, the superstars of the staff.
I used to be a staff person at the Maryland General Assembly, Department of Legislative Services. For a portion of my career, I worked there.
Ooh, legislative service. Oh, yeah, they're right. Oh, yeah, okay.
Yeah, I was, but watch this. I was a legislative drafter. I did code revision. I did amendments, and I was a budget analyst. The only thing I didn't do was fiscal notes, but I advised on those as well. So,
oh, see, I didn't even know that part of it.
Yeah, so I had the I had the budget when I was a budget analyst. I had the budget of the Department of Public Safety and Correctional Services when Secretary Sarr was the secretary. And you're absolutely right. Is the back? I love the background. My mother taught me about the background. She used to talk about we had an apartment building, small apartment building in DC. And our neighbors, they rented their apartment building. I mean, they rented their apartments from other people. So what my mom would do would help them call housing and rental assistance in those places when people were doing slumlordy things. And the thing that she explained to them, it was like, because they would just get angry and yell at people and call down there and stuff like that. She was like, no, follow the process. Because if nothing else, if you follow the process, they may not do it right, but at least you can show that you did it all. So if you need to appeal it or whatever, you have all your records. That wasn't my dad's thing. My dad was like, we're just going to find a way to get around it and keep it pushing. But I learned all of the background when active in church, big up the Trinity A&E Zion Church in Washington, D.C. But I tell people I was gang related from the very beginning. Now, the gangs I was with was, the A&E Zion Church, Alpha Phi Alpha fraternity. But don't get it twisted. I was trained for professional combat, the same way these brothers in the streets are trained for urban war, because the tools are,
I said that's deep. Spitting poetry.
Yeah. in as much as one of these cats on the street can tell you whether it's black tops or red tops, which one is going to do you better depending on what you like. Somebody can tell me about a business idea they have, and like, oh, watch out for that because boom, 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 boom. It's the same kind of thing, but I got trained by people in suits, not people with their pants hanging down. It's no different.
Respect.
And so I take the stuff I learned, just like, I remember because I grew up in DC in the 70s and 80s when the concept of getting killed for a gold chain first started. Like, at least now we can fight crime because we got like 3 decades of how the horror it is to deal with. Ours was the first generation who saw anything like that. And so my mother was like, oh, guess who's not going outside on the streets? Guess what? Like, I was one of those kids that literally had to play on the front steps of a DC apartment. I mean, a DC building. Like, so it ain't really a yard. That's not a yard. That's disrespectful. Call it a yard. You got the one bush right there.
She's playing it safe. I completely understand.
But what it did is that it created a chasm between me and the real world. And so I ended up, all I knew was the workshops I went to, because that I couldn't go no place else. All I knew was church. All I knew was school. And guess what I did? Those are the places I excelled in. Whenever there was a part in church, had all the lines memorized. At a certain point in high school, because I don't believe in homework and because I didn't understand it. And I told the teachers, like, if the point of homework is to make sure to help me learn the stuff so I can pass the test. If your goal is to get me to pass the test, if I can pass the test without doing the homework, then that makes the homework useless. How about I make you a deal? Yeah, let me go without doing the homework this week. I'll take the test on Friday because they had the whole homework every day, then the test on Friday. So I'll take the test on Friday. If I get anything lower than a 90, I will do all of the homework for the week over the weekend. Turn it in with no problem. And I will never complain about homework again. Sure. At least a 90? Yeah. Got a 96. No homework for the rest of the school year.
Wow. I love it. Hey, that's different.
But because I would look at it as systemic. It's like, what is your goal? Like, so I still don't understand why schools won't do this with me. So like when my kids had those fundraisers and stuff like that, I was like, whoa. I don't want to talk to my friends to sell this kind of stuff. I don't like selling them stuff I know has value, and this doesn't. So what is the profit that you all make on this stuff? I'll just write a check for the profit.
Oh, the profit don't even make it. Was like 5%.
But that's my thing. I was like, yo, for everything that, because let's not pretend as parents, we end up buying this shit anyway. Like, how many things of wrapping paper have I bought that the majority of that money went to a whole ass separate company? I'll give you all the stuff. That one thing I would have bought is more than the $20 you would have got by getting everybody his class stuff.
No, you're right. The Joe Corby's or the chocolate.
Yeah. No, whoa. World's finest almond chocolate. No, we got to keep that in circulation. Don't do that. Okay. All right.
Chocolate. You like
chocolate? Now again, Joe Corby, absolutely, but the world finest. Even though Joe Corby's gone. I mean, it's cool. The garlic bread is okay, but just I can't do that.
I remember I won one of I think it was a Joe Corby's fundraiser in elementary school, and we got like a limo ride to Pizza Hut. We showed a certain amount. It was, and my mom, she was working hard at work. She was working hard to get people to sell it, because like you said,
right. Let me just write you the profit, because again, focusing in on the goals. So kind of looping back around to the legislature, there were things that once I realized how the process worked, I created this workshop called I Declare Law. Because so after I left the General Assembly, I went to the Small Business Development Center and eventually found myself working for Department of Health and Mental Hygiene, DHMH at the time. And I elevated to becoming the Chief of Policy and Public Information for Infectious Disease and Environmental Health. And so some of the stuff that we were doing is just trying to make sure that, so we had this situation where the feds were changing the HIV reporting guidelines. And Maryland was one of the last holdouts with the old guidelines saying we don't disclose by name at all. We'll create a unique identifier. Now, all diseases get reported to the CDC by name, all diseases. And they have a lockbox on it. Like, I don't believe in the history of the CDC there's ever been one leak, let alone like a serious leak. And that's my information. But what people were still concerned, because the stigma around HIV/AIDS. Like everybody's concerned, especially back then, everybody's concerned. You find out about that, then nobody, you don't have. Some people didn't have family after that.
Yeah.
And so we were getting into, really getting the laws changed, because Maryland would have lost about $8 or $9 million specifically in HIV health if we didn't. No, it's 24 million specifically for HIV health. It was 7 million in the state matching, but another like 14 million of feds. So we were going to lose a total of like 24 million, or some math, a lot. And so we got the law changed. It was, process. And my boss, Heather Houck, at the time, she did an amazing job. Like, we put some wear on tires literally all over the state every month, answering any question anybody had. They could call us, they could email us. We had a form on the website. This is before social media popped off. We just wanted all the information, and we included it in the full book at the end. In the full report, we included damn near everything everybody said. Because guess what? Now that it's all in there, what you gonna say? We didn't hear your voice? Nope, your voice is right here, number 7. Well, no, we heard it, and there's an explanation why we didn't do yours at number 24. Hey, number 23 was amazing, and this is why this has to be part of it. All of that was able to engage people and get them involved. And so afterwards, we found some people who were still concerned. You know how advocates are. Once they start advocating, once they find the bad guy, no matter what happens, you're just waiting to tell everybody their names. And so we had some doctors who were like, oh, the regulations say the law may have changed, but the regulations are still the same. So until the regs change, we said, what happened? What happened? Say that again. They're like, well, the law may have changed, but the regs are still the same, and I operate under the regs. And it occurred to me in that moment, regardless of whether I was talking to a policy expert, a medical doctor, or a community member, I had to start at the beginning. Because I assumed this medical doctor who was talking about regulations and stuff like that would have at least had the basic understanding of the nature of the law to understand that if the statute changed, it makes the regulations moot if they're inconsistent. But because and then I thought, why would he know that? Is that something they talk about in med school? No. So I created this program called I Declare Law, because I remember that game when you're little, I Declare War. Mm-hmm. And so I did the Constitution is the ace, the statute is the king, and just broke it down like that. And it was a graphic or a representation so that people could understand. And it was a frame of reference that everybody had, a central kind of thing. And it was cool to see people like, oh, I remember that game, blah, blah, blah. But again, it's about the process. So even after we got the law changed, I was having problems getting engaged because people didn't understand the process.
Huh. Okay. Interesting. I mean, that was very insightful. And of course, just tells more about some of the work that you've done. And let me segue, right? So we talk about people understanding the process. We know that legalization will be on the ballot. And I'm excited, a cannabis advocate for sure.
Absolutely.
We're definitely going to have a cannabis conference in the future. So I look forward to that. So everybody look forward to a cannabis conference for sure.
Black USA News is hosting a cannabis conference this year.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. But what I wanted to say was, you're familiar with the Jonathan Wall case, right?
Oh, yeah.
So are you aware that the sentencing or that the deliberation has happened?
No, I didn't.
Yeah.
I know. I thought, when was because the hearing was next week, right? I thought the hearing was next week.
No, the hearing was this week. It was this week.
Oh, I got the weeks. I thought it was the second week in May. It was the first week in May.
Yes, first.
Damn.
So everybody, just to bring everybody up to speed.
Yeah.
What we're talking about is Jonathan Wall. He was facing federal charges on conspiracy to distribute. Which is
that's time.
A tragedy. But it's time. Absolutely, it's time, because the mandatory minimums, attached to that. So the mandatory 10-year sentence attached to that. But I would say it's a tragedy because we're going to push to legalize at the state level, but this being a federal case, the state legalizing has no standing.
Yeah, absolutely. Again, I declare law. Yeah.
It's just it's sickening, and the thought is like, when is your thought? When are we going to legalize? Federally?
Whoa. You move too quick. I'm gonna tell you. Legalization is you went too far. The issue is, when are we going to humanize? Because the issue around here is the issue isn't legalization. If we keep framing it that way, we miss an entire portion of the actual portion of the conversation. This is about how do we treat humans? How do we care for humans? Regardless of whether we're talking on the criminal side, the business side, or the medicinal side. We have so gotten into parties and roles and advocates and fighting and everything is that we miss the opportunity to human. And so the question on the ballot isn't just, are we going to legalize marijuana and all these intricacies? If we get to the point that how the fuck do we treat human beings? I have a friend who has fibromyalgia. And I got to be honest, I did not know about fibromyalgia when she first told me because I'm a male and I have a lot of female friends. I really thought it was like fibroids, period, uterus stuff. And again, that's how ignorant I was. And she educated me about the neurology of it. And here's the thing. She smoked, I'm her caregiver. And literally without it, there are days and weeks that she can't do nothing. It hurts so much. But then you still have the issue where she has to ration out her money and make decisions as to whether she's going to buy her medicine or whether she's going to buy food or something for, like, if her grandson needs something. These are literally decisions that she is making about her health, because guess what? Insurance don't cover it. So if you're on a fixed income, you still got to find money to pay for your own medicine. And guess what? You know what? They keep writing her Lyrica prescriptions like it's going out of fucking style. Wow. Making Wayne Lyrica. She gets CDS easily.
Wow, that just shows this pill happy pill craze that we have. Opioid, westernized medicine. No, not westernized medicine. Don't, because again, we gonna keep the vocabulary straight. We're talking about commercial medicine. Commercial. It isn't Western. It is commercial. And because what happens is that you get people thinking that, because what happens when you talk about Western medicine, now you got a lot of people running up the cost clock on acupuncture. Because now because they're commercializing actual Eastern medicine. And so again, it's not about Western medicine, it's about commercial medicine. All of the conversation, and again, so y'all don't understand, I get the privilege of watching him do all these shows every week. And one of the recurring themes is this idea of privilege, this idea of non-humans. We're talking about the law in such a great extent that we don't even mention people in it. How many of these guests have you had on that people are only talked about as cases? Because that's where it's commercial. We're desensitized. I think that's part of it, right? So it's just like,
but that's part of marketing. Think about that.
Specific episodes. We're talking about specific episodes,
Mm-hmm.
No, I mean, you hit it spot on the nose. You hit a spot on humanizing, but the thought is like, after we humanize, yes, are Black people going to get their fair share? Are we going
to No. Don't do that. Don't be disrespectful and even suggest that that's possible. And I'm going to tell you why. Okay. Because the challenge that we face, not just as Black people, but as Americans in general, is that we have been convinced. Actually, my show, because morning show, we're having Anita Francois on for the Black Travel Summit. She's from London, but she's living in the United States now and has created the Black Travel Summit. And one of the things that she and I were talking about was about how the differences in how Black people are engaged in the UK and in America. And I said, it's less about just racial. It's that in the UK, you all know that you're in a caste system and nobody has any pretenses. If like no laborer's son really believes he'll be king one day. You know what I mean? Like, that's nobody, not even like dukes and stuff like that believe that they're going to be king. The hierarchy just socially is already set. So the lines of hierarchy band together, because I know you with me and they're going to try to take it from us. So we band together in the United States. Oh, one of the most, so Philadelphia is one of my favorite cities in the world. And why is because it's the birthplace of the United States. And while the United States in many ways disgusts me, like in many ways, just at a very visceral level, it is one of the most incredible systems ever created. They took all the power and gave 60% of it away, but to 90% of the people. So we fight over Democrats and Republicans when what the hell does that matter? We fight over all of these things, but in the margins it matters. But if we look at in the United States, we don't believe in caste systems. So most of the average American has a net worth of less than $200,000, right? We don't believe as a people in a wealth tax of 5 million or above.
Oh yeah, we talked about that.
Why does that even make sense? But in the UK, they would band together. Well, certain classes would band together about that because we know we ain't never gonna be millionaires, bro. We know we might get 100,000 heirs.
Well, hey, I'll be honest. I'll be honest with you, right? And I know me and you can have an OG conversation, right? I'm not a materialistic person,
right?
I do want to, have assets.
Yeah.
But I've never dreamt of being like a wealthy individual, because I think that every person and every man has their own value of success, right?
Yes.
Like for me, it's not to be necessarily a millionaire. It's to be comfortable. And for me, being comfortable necessarily doesn't have to mean being a millionaire.
Right.
It could be being a thousandaire, being able to take care of my kids, take care of my family, being and then also creating that generational wealth, right? So making sure that they have.
But see, this becomes the thing. In order, the system, again, how the system works, and we talked about this about politics as well. The system is designed to cause you to behave in a way to get the system's rewards. So, for example, for me, it's my money. And if you want my money, you will have to behave the way as if I want my vendors to behave. You don't have to want my money. But if you want my money, you're going to have to behave. If you want the rewards of, like you and I talk about, political leadership, there's certain stuff I'm going to need you to do to get there. If you want to have the benefit of generational wealth, there's certain things about current life that I'm going to need you to sacrifice to get there. And this is what I'm saying, is because the reason, kind of circling, because I do this all the time on my show, I'll still do circle back. I remember what we were talking about. I just got a long way to get there. Going back to whether Black people are actually going to receive benefit from this, no. Because the same reason when Under Armour came into Baltimore with the Port Covington proposal, when they had a tight ass, really intelligent community group together to try to negotiate the community benefits associate agreement with Under Armour and Sagamore, all of a sudden a pastor got 50 grand here for their church, and another program got this, and then all of a sudden the coalition wasn't as tight anymore. And because it wasn't as tight anymore, and some of these other organizations signed on to the side, well, now the core of the community benefits agreement was watered down.
Okay.
But here's the thing: you can't really fault the pastor or the other people who peeled off, because they had responsibilities to their organizations. If you had if you were hurting for cash, or you have an opportunity for a guaranteed 50, or splitting who knows how much maybe one day come possibly, and you need that 50 right now, plus a commitment to to get some notoriety or whatever. They took it. Can't be mad at them. They protected their flock. They sacrificed everybody else. But do you see how this idea of you could win by yourself means that we can't even stay together on a bit? Literally, we were already together.
Yeah.
It's not even trying to form a coalition. Everything was laid out like you could not. And cannabis is a lot more ethereal, a lot more philosophical in certain aspects of it, and people still don't want to deal with the commercial aspects. So that's why I don't think Black people are going to get a lot more. Absolutely. More than they normally would? Absolutely. Because one of the things I am so proud of is that people are more organized now. We've had an opportunity during COVID to recognize how what we had really wasn't good. But we were so caught up in it before, we didn't realize how bad it was. But with this break that we've had until that time to look at it, we're like, no, and having to get proficient at sharing information electronically.
Yeah.
Before it was just, we post some stupid stuff on Facebook, but now the process, the system is rolling, and everybody is sharing information and stuff like that. So there will be more, but it damn sure will not be parity.
Even seniors are in that information sharing. So even that's awesome to see them experience and come into technology, right, during COVID.
Oh, absolutely.
Some of them it was foreign. I remember seeing them on the Zoom for the first time. Where do I? So yeah.
Watch this. My mother, she called me. She was like, "Let me tell you what I did." Come, you got, when you come down, you're gonna look at my Zoom, and there's a virtual background right there on her own. And she was so proud. She did it on her own. I was so proud of her. Because again, something I think it takes a couple clicks and a file share. She worked on it and she did it on her own.
Hey,
like, that's cool.
Hey, you got to celebrate the small wins.
Yeah, because the reality is that the big wins are what keeps us manipulated. If we always waiting for the big wins, then how long are you damn waiting?
And hey, you know, to be honest with you, I remember a friend asked me one of the most profound things, and it was something like, you know, how often do you celebrate your wins, right? Like, and then it made me think, like, dang, a lot of times I don't, you know what I mean? I don't take a moment
on to the next challenge.
To just, like, you know what I mean? Yeah, to just embrace it. Like, there's a lot of times where, like, you know, people bask in their wins, and, you know, however small or large it might be, for the most part, it's just like, you know, okay, got that done. Boom, got that done.
But let's be clear. Some of that is the trauma that occurs in our communities, because we don't normally have an opportunity to celebrate wins. We have to get on to the next one.
True.
Look at some of your colleagues your colleagues of other races or whatever. One of the things that a lot of people don't pay attention to in small business and in politics, time. Like, there's one of the councilmen in Baltimore City, one of his interns or his staff drives them everywhere, which is cool. There's a lot of legislators who have that. But do you know what that frees up as far as time is concerned?
Yeah.
Like, when I drive an hour, I am focused an hour. I can't do, you know, I maybe have some phone calls, but I can't type up anything. This man now, because of this resource and the way he has chosen to use the resource, now has gotten all of his commuting time back.
Yeah. Oh, yes. It's real efficient because you can make calls, you can do emails. Yeah. I mean, you could do really read.
But a lot of us, when we get into roles like that, and this is a Caucasian legislator, when we get into roles like that, one of the first things we do is we make sure we put everybody on, whether they're qualified to be put on or not. We put them on, and we try to make sure that we invest in the things that enhance the community. This, and again, you can argue whether him having his staff as a driver benefits the community. There's an argument to be made, but we don't even think about that from that perspective in many cases. Hell, you see a black legislator with a staff person driving around, it's like, oh, they think they all that.
I mean, yeah, you know, hey, that's where that's where I was going with it. Like, does he really need a try? You know,
but that's the difference. Just as a value for ourselves, we define need in ways that means we have to, that we are damaged without it. He defines needs in a way that makes him the most productive.
That is deep. Because I know exactly how time consuming driving can be.
Right? Yeah, I know you do. I produce your shows.
yeah, man, it's funny, right? You know, so yeah, I know exactly what you're talking about.
And so that's a conversation, but for as African Americans, we never even contemplate that being a help to the community.
Yeah.
That's you being selfish.
It was how you look at it, right? So it was, you put a different perspective in there. It was like, you know, looking at it like how much more productive would a driver make you, and you know, how much better could you serve the community with a driver. So and you brought up another good point, which is waste of resources, right? Like, sometimes, a lot of times, there's like these bloated positions where they're not really doing anything. Nobody's going to be fired for, you know, lack of really inaction or anything like that, you know, because they're with city government, we know, or county government or state government. We know how like government jobs go. You know, if you get in, like, you can be one
some of that is real quick, because again, part of my role with the state was trying to teach people that that's not true. That becomes true because you have people who are trying to do personal relationship with professional people. So you come in late to the office, Martin's cool, he does work late, I don't document you. And then you come late again, I say something to you, but I don't really document it. But now the third time, now I document it, but I make reference to the first two times. I can't make reference to those.
No.
And so now I'm pissed because this is your third occurrence, except that it's not. So now I'm like, well, see, I do all this stuff. Like, no, but you skipped 2 steps. And so that becomes kind of what ends up happening. Like, people don't understand how that process works. And nobody's going to train you on it. Who's going to train you? Management? You mean the person who either has been there 30 years and just got promoted, or the person who's just here long enough to get enough stuff on their resume to get a new job? Or you mean labor is supposed to teach you how to work them harder? Who's going to teach this kind of stuff?
Those are all profound questions.
Yeah, it goes back to the problem ends up in the system, and not the system as this ubiquitous force that's controlling all of us. There is a process for things. There is a process for making a decision. If you can figure out how that process works, you are in a better place to disrupt that process or shape the outcomes of that process how you want. That's kind of what I do with small businesses with my company. I help them figure out how to get through all of the noise. And that's kind of what we try to do with the programming on Black USA News, like the conversations around cannabis or like the conversations around mental health, physical health. It's just making sure that we bring information out to people that makes sense. And also is stuff that they can use. Pontificating about pontificating don't help nobody but the pontificator.
Hey, so since we're talking about quotes, what is one of your favorite quotes?
It's actually not a quote. You mind if a poem?
A poem. Yeah.
Yeah. Out of the night that covers me, black is the pit from pole to pole. I thank whatever God may be for my unconquerable soul. In the fair chance of circumstance, I have not winced nor cried aloud under the bludgeonings of chance. My head is bloody, but unbowed. Beyond this place of wrath and tears looms but the horror of the shade. But the menace of the years finds, but he shall find me not afraid. It matters not how straight the gate, nor how charged with punishment the scroll. For I am the master of my fate, and I am the captain of my soul. Invictus. That poem helps me a lot. Because black man in the United States, hell in Baltimore, it's not easy. I got mental health issues, I got physical issues. It becomes hard and it becomes lonely. And at those times, you just got to dig in and grab onto something. And that's what I grab onto. I appreciate the brothers of Alpha Phi Alpha for having my back, even when I couldn't be there to have my own back. So that's a big deal.
Of course. Hey, that's a great quote. Definitely got to send that to me.
Absolutely, man.
And one of the questions I always ask everybody: Pepsi or Coke?
Oh, dude, Diet Pepsi with 6 slices of lemon.
Diet Pepsi.
Every time you ask this question, I'm like, oh, I want to answer so bad. So I'm so happy. I was waiting, like literally. This is one of the reasons I took the interview so I could say that for the record. Diet Pepsi, 6 slices of lemon. Whew, okay.
Just to be clear, somebody said Coke Zero. Somebody said
but nobody said Diet Pepsi, especially not with no extra lemon in it. You see? No, I'm special. I'm unique.
You're right. I'll give you that. And then the last thing I wanted to leave you with is favorite superhero.
So iconically, I am a fan of Superman. I have a Superman ring. I have a Superman mug. Actually, I have a Superman pimp gauntlet.
The Superman movies are boring, though. I'm not gonna lie.
But this is why I like Superman. Not because he's exciting or because he's strong. It is the fact that he has all of the power, but still chooses to help people. Like he literally, and then you can see in some of the variations of him when he goes evil, at any point in time, he can do whatever he wants, but he chooses to help people. Like for me, that is my aspiration. It is, to be clear, I'm actually way more Batman, or if I'm honest, sometimes more the Punisher or Deadpool than I am Superman. But Superman is my aspiration because I want to be the Boy Scout. I want to be that, everybody knows when they see me coming in, it's going to be okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
Hey, Superman. Yeah, I think you might be the first person that said Superman. So I appreciate that answer, Superman. And of course the explanation. I appreciate the explanation as well.
No problem, sir.
So William, of course,
yes,
tell people how they can stay connected with you.
Oh, absolutely. You can catch me at sure. I'm trying to make sure because I work in the background, so I get to press buttons when I want to. So that's my email address. You can reach the company there. But you can catch me the same place. My show is Monday through Friday, Black USA News. The morning show, Monday through Friday, 10 a.m. to 11. Please check us out. We have a great time. And I am not this well behaved on my show. It's part of my coping mechanism, so it's always entertaining.
Yes, I'm sure he is a lot more open, a lot more open, so guys. That's the word we'll use. But we'll definitely have you back, and I look forward to being on your show and
Absolutely.
participating in this conference. Getting this thing jumping off, because hopefully it's something that could be like an annual thing or
Yes.
biannual, something. Just kind of make it happen.
Well, hell, if we're gonna talk about it, we trying to do an annual, but a revolving annual. So in let's say September is annual in the DMV, in December is annual in Florida, in February is annual in Compton. Because this is not a conversation about Baltimore.
Different countries. I forgot. Yeah.
We keep it moving because this is a conversation that, especially the way that we're going to have it, this is a conversation about Black people across the diaspora, especially in the United States. So it just happening on the East Coast means that we talk about our issues, but there's stuff that's happening in the Midwest.
Facts. I love it. I love to hear it. I didn't even think about the revolving, and man, that's awesome.
We helping everybody.
Yes. So we're gonna make this thing happen, and I will see you guys soon. See you next Sunday. Happy Mother's Day. We want to wish all the beautiful mothers happy Mother's Day. Of course, we wouldn't be here without you. And,
amen.
And happy Mother's Day to you, Mom. Mom Dukes, as I would say.
Absolutely.
Yes.
All right.